According to insiders, Jimmy Haslam is no longer waiting for consensus from his coaching staff. He's making the call himself. Gabriel's recent struggles didn't just spark debate. They triggered a full-scale internal shift. The leaks praising Sanders, the sudden media pivot, the reassessment of backup roles. It's all part of a larger organizational move to clear the runway for Shedeur Sanders, and Haslam's not hiding it. In Cleveland, coaching philosophy has taken a backseat, and the owner is driving the quarterback decision now. Haslam's involvement has reshaped the Browns' trajectory. What might look like subtle press coverage changes are actually part of a broader plan to gradually elevate Sanders and sideline Gabriel without a direct confrontation. It's a quiet coup led by leaked narratives, analyst shifts, and behind-the-scenes positioning. The goal? To turn Sanders into the face of the franchise while Gabriel fades from relevance. This strategy may be risky, but it's calculated, and it reflects a growing trend in the NFL where ownership influence is no longer behind closed doors. The writing's on the wall in Cleveland, and insiders are making sure everyone can read it loud and clear. The Browns aren't just hoping Shedeur Sanders works out. They're actively preparing him to take over, and not in a vague developmental backup kind of way. No, this is something far more calculated. This is a franchise grooming a future starter behind closed doors while letting their current quarterback quietly slip out of favor. From top to bottom, the Browns front office is in on it. Sources say it's being driven straight from the top, Jimmy Haslam himself. Haslam isn't waiting to see if Shedeur might be ready someday.
If you're into the real story and all the messy twists they don't show on highlight reels, go ahead and subscribe. And if you're sticking around to see how this Browns QB chaos plays out, you should definitely be subscribed.
He's directing the shift now, from narrative control to internal evaluations. The focus is on clearing the runway, wiping away doubts, and steering public attention towards Sanders' supposed potential and away from the very real concerns around Dillon Gabriel. If you've been paying attention, this has been building for weeks. What started as analyst side comments about Gabriel's inconsistency has become a pattern. Questions about his performance under pressure, doubts about his decision-making, worries about his ability to lead in clutch moments. And as all of that picked up steam, something else started happening in the background. Shedeur's name started surfacing, not just in speculation, but in tone. The way people inside the organization talk about him, the way his media perception is being massaged. Every time Gabriel gets dinged by analysts or fans, Shedeur somehow benefits. And now it's not subtle. Now it's part of a broader plan. Shift the spotlight, manage expectations, and start prepping Shedeur for the takeover. Because that's what this is. A takeover. The Browns aren't waiting for Gabriel to completely collapse. They're proactively lowering expectations around him while raising the ceiling around Sanders. It's like watching a controlled demolition. No explosions, no panic. Just brick by brick, the Gabriel era is being taken apart, while Shedeur's foundation is being poured. Analysts like Rex Ryan have already picked up on the energy shift. Ryan has been vocal about Shedeur being a real option, possibly a better fit under pressure. It's not a coincidence. When a guy like Rex starts planting those seeds on national platforms, it's not because he randomly likes a player. It's because people behind the scenes are nudging that message forward. And that message is clear. Shedeur is coming. Whether it's next month, next season, or next headline, the Browns are paving the way for him. Meanwhile, Gabriel's grip is slipping. After a recent loss, his performance, and especially his post-game comments, raised eyebrows. Not only did he struggle in critical moments, but he failed to own it convincingly. And that kind of thing matters. When you're on the verge of being replaced, body language and leadership presence are just as scrutinized as your stat line. Now, the talk isn't about fixing things for Gabriel. It's about whether he should even be the guy going forward. That's not just critique, that's transition talk. And when the team doesn't rush to defend their starting quarterback, it tells you everything you need to know about what's happening internally. Insiders say the Browns have started evaluating backup options. Not to replace Shedeur, but to support his path. To make sure when he's elevated, the team has a structure in place. That means they're not waiting for Gabriel to fall flat. They're planning for when Shedeur steps in and how to protect that moment. Because they know quarterback transitions can break a team if handled wrong. so they're handling it very carefully. The Browns' strategy is as much about psychology as it is about football. They're not just coaching Shedeur, they're crafting his narrative. They want him to be seen as mature, poised, and quietly prepared. That's why they're doing the image cleanup now. Any lingering skepticism around Sanders, it's being addressed internally and filtered out externally. And on the flip side, they're allowing the negative energy around Gabriel to swirl. They're not cleaning it up. They're not reshaping his narrative. They're just letting it sit there, unresolved, because the longer it sits, the easier the transition becomes. This isn't just quarterback development. This is brand management. They're betting big on Shedeur, bigger than fans may realize. The leaks, the media nudges, the calculated silence from the coaching staff when Gabriel's under fire, it's all part of the same puzzle. Shedeur isn't just next up. He's being prepped to lead, to be the guy, to become the Browns' franchise quarterback, and, more importantly, the face of their future. The signs are everywhere. You don't leak a quarterback plan unless you want people talking, unless you're trying to soften the ground. These aren't clumsy mistakes or rogue insiders with loose lips. These are strategic leaks designed to shape perception before the actual move happens. And make no mistake, Gabriel's standing is already compromised. His performances are under scrutiny. His leadership is being questioned. And the media pressure is starting to mount. That alone would be hard to recover from. But with Shedeur waiting in the wings, being treated like a secret weapon, Gabriel doesn't stand a chance. The fact that the team has started aligning with Shedeur in tone and messaging says everything. This is about preparing the fan base as much as the locker room. When you start hearing analysts talk about the right moment and developmental upside, it means the narrative is taking shape. The Browns are not reacting. They're executing. This kind of shift doesn't come without risk. If Gabriel suddenly turns it around, delivers clutch wins, silences critics, it could put the team in a complicated position. But from the way they're handling this, it's clear they're willing to take that risk, because the payoff they see in Shedeur is bigger than whatever short-term upside Gabriel can offer. And if Shedeur stumbles when his moment comes, that's the gamble. But the Browns are betting on the long term. They're not chasing a miracle season. They're building something more durable. And they believe Shedeur can be that foundation. What's even more telling is how the locker room dynamic is shifting. When the front office puts its weight behind a new quarterback, it changes the chemistry. Players start picking up on it. Coaches start adjusting. The culture starts evolving. And whether Gabriel senses it or not, it's already happening. Shedeur's being integrated. Slowly, methodically, he's being talked about like a future leader. And not just in vague terms. He's being framed as a guy with potential and the mentality to lead. That doesn't happen unless the team is setting up for a transition. The Browns aren't saying out loud, but everything they're doing screams it. The leaks, the praise, the silence around Gabriel's mistakes. The way the media narrative has flipped in just a few weeks. This isn't a coincidence. It's a calculated move, and it's already in motion. The story isn't about whether Shedeur might replace Gabriel. It's about when. And based on everything we're seeing, that moment is closer than most people realize. So where does that leave us? It leaves us in a franchise limbo, watching a quiet transfer of power that's being orchestrated behind the scenes. Gabriel may still be starting games for now, but the future is being written without him. The Browns have made their decision. The coaching staff is aligning. The media is on board. And Shedeur Sanders is getting the kind of runway most quarterbacks only dream about. There's a plan in place. And unless something drastic happens, it's going to unfold exactly the way the Browns want it to. Gabriel may be QB1 in title, but Shedeur, he's QB1 in waiting. And waiting is almost over. Drop your thoughts in the comments. Is Shedeur the answer? Or is this just another overhyped pivot from a team that's done this dance before? And if you're here for the inside drama, strategy breakdowns, and every front office plot twist, subscribe now. Because this Browns quarterback saga, it's far from over. It's one thing for a team to ride with a hot hand. It's another thing entirely to start orchestrating a future before the present has even run its course. But that's exactly where the Browns are right now. They're no longer just evaluating Shedeur Sanders. They're slowly installing him. And the most dramatic part? They're doing it while Dillon Gabriel is still technically the guy, still starting, still giving post-game interviews, still pretending this is his team to lead. But when the suits upstairs, namely Jimmy Haslam and company, start making subtle, behind-the-scenes moves to prop up the backup, you know the clock is ticking. And it's not ticking in Gabriel's favor. From a PR standpoint, this might be one of the cleaner, quieter quarterback transitions we've seen. No full-blown controversy. No messy statements. Just a quiet, strategic erasure. One decision, 20 small steps, and a carefully curated image campaign. And let's not act like this isn't how it works. NFL quarterback changes are rarely just about performance on the field. They're about optics, narrative, timing, and trust. The team has to believe in the guys stepping up. The fans have to feel like it's a logical next move. And right now, the Browns are working overtime to make Shedeur feel like the answer before the questions even finish being asked. Gabriel's recent losses, especially the one that reignited this conversation, didn't just hurt the team's standing. They gave the front office exactly what it needed, an opportunity to shift focus. And if you look closely, they took it fast. No excuses, no protective posturing. No, he's still developing shield. Just silence. And in that silence, a new narrative started forming. One built around potential, promise, and preparing for the future. In comes Shedeur. He's not being hyped as a savior. Not yet. That would be too obvious. The Browns are smarter than that. Instead, they're presenting him as composed, quietly confident, on track for something bigger. And what a coincidence. The same week analysts like Rex Ryan start floating ideas of quarterback change, we suddenly hear whispers that the Browns are actively shifting narratives around Shedeur, that they're deliberately trying to change how the media views him, that they're preparing him, not just evaluating. This isn't speculative noise. It's strategy. You don't leak that kind of plan unless you're executing it. You don't shape media coverage unless you want it shaped. This is all part of a broader effort to not just protect Shedeur's trajectory, but elevate it. So when the moment comes, there's no backlash. Just nods. Acceptance. Oh, yeah, this makes sense. And here's where things get even more delicate. The Browns aren't just shifting public perception. They're managing internal dynamics. Two, because grooming a backup quarterback while your starter is still leading the huddle, that's a chemistry nightmare if you're not careful. You need buy-in from players, from coaches, from leadership. And the fact that this isn't leaking out as locker room drama tells you something important. The plan is being followed. The coaching staff isn't resisting. They're watching, evaluating, probably giving Shedeur extra reps in private, giving him a kind of support and one-on-one attention you don't give just any backup. The team isn't rallying behind Gabriel in public either. That he's still our guy, energy you usually get when a quarterback is under fire, nowhere be found. Just the sound of air being slowly let out of a balloon that, just weeks ago, was holding up a season. And if that doesn't tell you how calculated this is, nothing will. Let's be honest. If the Browns weren't prepping for a change, this whole conversation would have been shut down already. They'd be out front saying Gabriel is their guy. They'd be defending his progress. They'd be controlling the story to stabilize him. Instead, they're doing the exact opposite. They're letting it play out. They're letting the media question his leadership. They're letting insiders talk about Shedeur. They're letting fans speculate, debate, even root for the switch. Why? Because they're ready. This isn't a reaction to a bad game. It's the result of months of planning. The Browns didn't just now decide Shedeur was the future. They've been working toward this moment for a while. They've been waiting for a window to open. And Gabriel, whether he knows it or not, he just gave them one. It's hard to overstate how big this is for the franchise. This isn't just a personnel shift. This is about identity. About finally finding a quarterback they can shape into something lasting. And if they're right about Shedeur, this could be the move that finally gets them off the quarterback carousel they've been riding for decades. That's why the Browns are being so careful, so methodical. It's not about drama. It's about legacy. And yet, it could all still fall apart. Let's say Shedeur does get a shot. Let's say the team keeps tilting the narrative in his favor, and eventually hands him the keys. If he fails, if he looks overwhelmed, unprepared, or just flat out not ready, the entire campaign collapses. The narrative flips, the media turns, and the front office is suddenly the villain again. But that's the risk they're willing to take, because what they don't want is to be stuck in limbo. Again, they've seen enough of Gabriel to know he's probably not the long-term answer, and they've seen enough in Shedeur to believe he could be. So they're making their move. The final twist? If Gabriel somehow finds a second wind, starts playing well, and silences the critics, things get messy, really messy, because then you're stuck with a split narrative, one part of the organization still pushing for Shedeur, while the results tell a different story. But again, the Browns aren't planning around what if. They're planning around what's next. And according to insiders, what's next is Shedeur Sanders. He's not the emergency option. He's the intended one. And unless something changes dramatically, on the field or off it, his rise is coming. Soon. So, let's ask the question that the Browns aren't willing to answer out loud. Has the organization already moved on from Gabriel in everything but name? Because if the leaks are true, if the planning, the narrative shaping, the internal evaluations are all lining up the way they appear to be, then this isn't a quarterback competition. It's a transition. And Shedeur's already halfway through the door. The Browns aren't staging a fair fight. They're executing a controlled shift, and Shedeur Sanders is the chosen one. Dillon Gabriel? He's just trying to keep the chair warm without realizing it's already been pulled out from under him. And here's the kicker. Gabriel probably knows something is happening. You can't be inside an NFL facility and not feel the tension, the shift in tone, the awkward pauses when your name comes up in interviews, the way reps quietly shift in practice. It starts slow. Maybe you don't get mentioned in film room breakdowns as often. Maybe you notice Shedeur getting a little extra one-on-one time with the QB coach. Nothing said outright, but it builds. That's what's happening now. And no matter how composed Gabriel tries to stay, it's almost impossible to operate at your best when the walls are closing in, especially when the media starts echoing the same thing you're hearing in the hallways. Your leash is short. What's brutal about all this is that Gabriel isn't necessarily crashing and burning. It's not a total meltdown. But in the NFL, you don't need to fall apart to lose your spot. Sometimes all it takes is hesitation. A missed throw on 3rd and long. A red zone trip that ends in a field goal. And most importantly, a lack of belief from those around you. That belief, it's gone. And in its place is this quiet coronation. The team isn't saying Shedeur is the future because they don't need to. Their actions are louder than any press conference could be. The leaks have started, and not the messy kind, the intentional kind, the sources inside the building kind, the stories that just happen to frame Shedeur as composed, promising, and steadily rising, stories that just happen to raise concerns about Gabriel's poise in high-pressure situations. It's all deliberate. The Browns are setting the stage. They're softening the blow. They're making sure that when the switch comes, and yes, it's coming, it won't feel like a panic move. It'll feel like something they've been preparing for. Because they have. Jimmy Haslam's fingerprints are all over this. You don't get a coordinated strategy like this without buy-in from the top. Haslam isn't exactly known for being hands-off. And when he gets behind a quarterback, he moves mountains to make it happen. He's not playing reactionary ball anymore. He's building. And what he's building is a new identity for this franchise, centered around a quarterback who, until recently, wasn't even in the national conversation. That's not by accident. That's design. It starts with narrative rehabilitation. Any past baggage Shedeur might have carried, gone. Wiped clean. The Browns have made sure of that. He's being framed now as focused, prepared, and coachable. Not flashy. Not raw. Just steadily improving and ready for a bigger role. And that framing matters. It's how the team controls the rollout. Because if you put a guy in too early and he flops, you lose the locker room. You lose the media. You lose momentum. But if you build the narrative slowly, craft the arc like a storyline, then when the moment comes, it lands differently. It feels earned. It feels like the right call. And here's the ugly part. Gabriel's situation was never really about being bad. It's about not being great enough. He hasn't shown the kind of spark that makes a front office want to recalibrate the whole plan. And once you fall into that placeholder territory, you're done. No one's going to say it to your face. But you're already out of the picture. And the worst part? You're still starting games. Still doing press. Still being asked to lead a team that's quietly moving on from you. It's brutal. The Browns are walking a tightrope here, but they seem completely comfortable with it because they think they've found a quarterback worth the risk. Someone worth developing, managing, and eventually showcasing. Shedeur is not being groomed to maybe start. He's being groomed to lead. And that's why this whole thing feels so different. It's not desperation. It's strategy. If Gabriel was lighting it up, this plan wouldn't be in motion. But he's not. He's middle of the pack, and that's not enough. Not for a franchise tired of spinning its wheels at the most important position in football. And to be fair, they've tried the quick fixes, the reclamation projects, the last-minute patch jobs. Now they want stability, and they think Shedeur might finally be the guy to give it to them. So they're not rushing it. They're managing the transition like a slow-burn campaign. Internally, it's probably even further along than we're being told. If insiders are leaking the strategy, then you can bet the team is already running the playbook behind closed doors. Which means one thing: Gabriel's clock is ticking. And the only way he stops it? Winning games. In style. With poise. With leadership. With fourth-quarter comebacks and post-game quotes that make people believe again. But so far, that's not happening. And every game that passes where he doesn't seize that moment, Shedeur gets closer. It's not loud. It's not messy. But it's happening. The Browns are turning the page. And if you've been watching closely, you already knew. So where you land? Is Shedeur Sanders the answer Cleveland's been looking for? Or is this just another overhyped pivot that's going to set the team back another 5 years? Let us know in the comments. And if you're here for more insider drama, front office power moves, and quarterback chaos, hit that subscribe button. Because this story, it's just getting warmed up.